everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the
Geek
Buddies!
Hey!
He's excited.
Hard.
He's
That
excited.
was very challenging.
It's not easy. Everyone thinks they can do it. You can't do it. You can make fun of us for it, but we have nailed it. We have got the timing for it. But yes, that's right. It is the Geek Buddies here on a Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. But we got so much to get into here on the show, talking some Marvel news, DC news, some trailers, some Star Wars news. Certainly a lot for us to cover here on this Friday show. But we should introduce ourselves before we start. I am John Rocha, writer, producer, and host here on the Geek Buddies.
This is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor. Hey, and I'm pinned for a thing right now. So everybody cross your fingers. Hopefully it comes through.
And I am not Michael
hold
Vogel.
on. No.
Oh, okay.
You don't introduce yourself. I introduced
said
you on this show, damn it.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Your show, whatever.
Mr. Vogel is unavailable to join us. He is traveling right now, so we looked around to find who could fill those big shoes of his. And what do you know? My co-host on the Cine-Files and a guy who is a writer, a director, a producer, and at times has been an actor as well. We're very excited to welcome him to the Geek Buddies. That is the great Steve Morris. How are you, Steve?
Hey!
Thank you. I am a very, very long time fan of the Geek Buddies. As you know, I have listened to almost every episode. There were a couple of spoiler reviews that I didn't watch, so I didn't do those. Every regular episode of the Geek Buddies I've listened to, and I am excited to try to bring my knowledge of the past into the present day. This is a challenge for me, but I'm really, really excited to geek it up with both of you.
Well, we're excited to have you here for sure. And for those of you who don't know, Steve is my co-host on the Cine-Files, which is a podcast we have been doing for 9 years now, coming up to our 10-year anniversary very soon. It is all everywhere where you download podcasts. And Shannon is an avid listener, so we're very honored that Shannon is such an avid listener to the Cine-Files. But today, as we're recording this, the third episode has come out, our final episode on Superman, 1978 Superman, with Michael Vogel. So me and Steve Morris talking about Superman with Michael Vogel here. And on the show, we basically break down a film moment by moment, sometimes scene by scene, depending on how big the scene is, and go through everything that goes on in those movies. Am I correct on, did I miss any of this?
No, well, having the fact that you've done the show for 9 years probably gives you a good advantage in understanding what it's about. Yeah, it is the deepest dive of deep dives. So when we started out, we were spending like an hour on a movie, then an hour and a half. And now, as you said, we just did 3 parts, almost 6 full hours to break down everything about Superman with Vogel. That's the behind the scenes news, how the casting worked, shot to shot, how the special effects were done, how it affected the world, everything you could. So this is your one-stop shop to know everything you want to know about a great film. Yeah,
this is what you're looking for. This thumbnail right there, it is out there on our YouTube channel, but also wherever you download podcasts. And we do a pretty good business with that show here, 150 to 200,000 downloads a month. So it is a big show for us in our world. Shannon, have you caught up on the Superman stuff? Well, what's your thoughts here?
I've listened to the first episode. I'm not caught up. I've not listened to episode 2 yet. But one of the things, and this is something that I always talk about when the Cine-Files gets brought up, is I went as a friend and I stayed as a fan. Not with a D. Because you all do a fantastic job, and I'm one of those folks that I don't always have the strongest appreciation for films from the past. So listening to you all do a deep dive on something then motivates me to go and actually watch the movie. I mean, the amount of movies that I've seen as a result of your podcast, I can count on 2 hands. Hey. One for every year. But again, it's just a super enjoyable show. I love when you guys go deep. I love when you're chatting and it'll be 20 minutes in and you've not even started talking about the movie yet.
Oh, it's true. It's true.
So yes, for any of our Geek Buddies listeners who have not hopped on the Cine-Files train, I would highly encourage you to do it. It is a supremely enjoyable listen.
So A, thank you, and B, your story about the Cine-Files is exactly my story about the Geek Buddies. I started listening as a friend and I stayed as a fan. And here's the thing, and I'll just really quickly, all of us 20 years ago spent a lot of time going to each other's plays, to each other's showcases, to when we film somewhere, and most of them sucked. Most of the stuff that we had to go see because we were starting out, and a lot of it wasn't that good. And it's so cool that we as friends can actually genuinely be fans, long-term fans of each other's work.
Yeah,
that's really nice.
Agreed. Well, we'll see if we stay fans by the end of this show. We got so much to get into and battle and talk about here on the show. So let's start it off. And the way the show works, for those who might be new, is we talk about three geek news items, talk about some trailers, then we'll get to a big geek news item, and that is certainly everything that has come out about DC over the last week. We're going to cover all of that, but we're going to start with Marvel first, and let's talk about Spider-Man Brand New Day has started shooting there in the UK and Scotland specifically, and you've got ourselves quite a lot of set photos there. Look at a tight outfit and then flying through the air, escaping the fire there. There's shots here, and try not to notice Tom Holland's package, but you've got some shots here of Tom Holland in the new Spider-Man outfit as well. And this is the shot, though. What a shot there on the left. And then the shot, of course, of John Bernthal as the Punisher. And there's even set video that has been released of the Punisher walking, eating a sandwich while all kinds of hell is happening in the streets. So, Shannon, you look at these photos. What's your reaction to these photos? Are you excited about what you're seeing? Do you like where we're going? And I'm not going to show the other photo with a certain significant other of Mr. Holland and what she might be, where they were at shooting some scenes. So your thoughts on these photos so far? Anything to take from these photos?
I mean, not really. I mean, I think the fact that they're leaning into the practical web swinging that I think John Watts was kind of quoted as saying, like he wasn't interested in really looking into that. I mean, that's the biggest difference right there, is Destin Daniel Cretton leaning into that practical aspect. Now, will it be augmented with CGI? Will there be CGI shots? Yes, because there are certain things the human body cannot do in real life. Are these shots going to look amazing? We don't know. I mean, when you think back to Sam Raimi's first Spider-Man, and granted that was more than 20 years ago, there's the infamous shot of Kirsten Dunst holding on to a Spider-Man mannequin as you see them. I mean, that was probably a rear screen projection type thing, but I like that they're trying something new. And, you know, the MCU is in a very unique spot. They've never had they've never been back on their heels the way they are right now. I mean, we looked at that second week drop of Fantastic Four, which isn't entirely unpredicted because Marvel movies are so front loaded because all of the fans go that first weekend. But you saw that big drop, and that's what I think that was a little that big a drop was a little unexpected, and that speaks to that movie not really connecting with your mainstream audience as much as they would have liked it to. Now, there are certain MCU brands that at this point are kind of immune to criticism, and it is Spider-Man and Avengers. So knowing that Spider-Man is one of those brands, that the MCU trilogy of Spider-Man films are one of the best trilogies in the MCU, knowing that they're, you know, going out into a fourth chapter with a new creative team behind the camera, it's really exciting. And that shot that you already mentioned, John, that kind of big wide shot, I mean, again, that's an incredible image. And having the presence of John Bernthal there, the confirmation that Mark Ruffalo was coming in as the Hulk, it's exciting. It's exciting. And as someone who liked Fantastic Four and didn't love Fantastic Four, I still love the MCU, despite their having more misses than hits recently. But I'm still very, very excited to get the next chapter of Tom Holland's Peter Parker.
Great words there, Shannon. What do you think, Steve? What do you think of these set photos? Anything to take away? Anything that you saw that caught your eye? Anything of interest? And I'm not showing some of the more spoiler heavy shots because I think people should discover those for themselves if they want that spoiled or not. But I just try to keep some generic shots. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think that what's interesting about Spider-Man, as opposed to all the other Marvel stuff that has been coming up lately, is it isn't about, can we create the magic again? It's, can we keep the magic going? It's not like, you know what I mean? Like, these have already been successful. We're not creating a new team like Thunderbolts. We're not creating a new Captain America. We're not trying to create an entirely new world and with the Fantastic Four. We've already established something that people really, really like. So the issue is really not fucking it up. The things that I like about what we've seen I like the idea, and I really hope they stay to it, that this is going to be the more street level friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. That because we've stripped everything away from him, this isn't going to be with high tech stuff. This isn't going to be cosmic battles. This isn't all that other stuff. I really hope that's the case. And the very, very small clues we have does represent that. So one is the uniform obviously isn't the CGI magical uniforms we're used to seeing in the past. And the shots, by the way, if you show me an image like this and tell me whatever you do, don't look at Tom Holland's package. I mean, that's not really fair. Honestly, that's not fair.
Look at this one. How about this?
I just feel someone has to represent Michael Vogel here. Anyway, so the point I'm trying to make, particularly with that Punisher shot, is that Punisher is a street level situation. That's what it's really telling us. I don't know what's going on with Spider-Man. I don't know what the crowd is for. I don't know why he's hanging his head. I don't know why the Punisher has that expression on his face. But what I do know is that something dramatic has happened. And again, if it's the Punisher, well, that is street level by its nature. You know, it's like we're going to deal with humans and relationships and people. And that to me makes me really excited for the film.
Yeah, I agree. A lot with what you guys said, I completely echo. I like that it's street level. I like they're doing practical effects in the way they're doing the web spinning. Why not? It's destined Daniel Cretton come in. He's got to make his Spider-Man a little different than John Watts' Spider-Man, so it stands out and it's clearly his vision. Yes, he's got to adhere to the stuff that Marvel and tie things back into the main overall universe, and Kevin Feige is watching over everything, but you've got to find your way to do your version of it. And since they're moving on from John Watts, he's not just going to copy everything John Watts did in the style. He's going to try to work his own way in there. So for me, I like that he's making these decisions and going this route, because that will radiate street level. The fact that you're not having the CGI stuff, the fact you're not having any of that, it's going to make it feel a little more practical, which will make it more like ground-based. And I think a lot of people are excited about that. It doesn't mean we won't end up with some fantastical stuff. As we know, the Hulk is coming in. And will he be the Savage Hulk? Will we get a spin-off to World War Hulk? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that could be happening here. But I like the shots. I like the costume. I like the way it's looking as well. Another element of this, though, that broke just yesterday, and this comes to us from my brother Christian Harloff on his channel. He claimed that there's a, quote, pretty good guarantee that the Stranger Things star Sadie Sink will be playing Gwen Stacy in this movie, the smart, confident, emotionally complex fan favorite who has made waves across the comics, animation, and 2 previous live action franchises. So, Shannon, you hear Spider-Gwen, you hear Gwen Stacy. I mean, is this all in play? And Sadie Sink being a redhead, becoming a blonde. I've heard Mayday Parker. Jeff last night said he still hears that she's in the contention for Jean Grey. Where do you fall on this? Because Christian said he's 90% sure based on his source. Does this make sense to you? And she wouldn't be the first redhead to go blonde. Your thoughts?
The big thing is Sadie Sink is an incredible young performer based off of just her work in Stranger Things. Now you have folks that have seen her work on Broadway, sort of, just heralding what she brings to a role. So no matter what she plays, historically, we are going to get a really, really good performance. It's going to be interesting who she plays, because when you throw the Gwen Stacy potential out there, it's like, is this a Gwen Stacy like we got with Emma Stone, who's just one of Peter's friends and becomes romantic with? Is this the Gwen Stacy that we get from the Spider-Verse, who is from a different universe, who is also Spider-Gwen? So it's kind of like, we'll see what happens. I mean, in any case, having her kind of take over that lead role, potentially take over that lead role from Zendaya, I think is a strong option.
Where do you lean, though? Do you believe it? Do you think she would be the choice? Do you think that's where they're going, or do you think the other characters seem to make more sense?
I think Mayday Parker is the biggest stretch. Okay. Just because of the fact, like, this is a Peter from another universe's grown-up daughter. I think that's not that it was strained credulity, but I feel like they have to do a lot of heavy lifting to make that work. Jean Grey,
street level Spider-Man, right? So
great man, Jean Grey would be awesome, but then that's introducing a whole side of the mutants that it seems like they're not introducing the new mutants until after everything kind of gets reset with Secret Wars. So it seems like the most likely scenario is Gwen Stacy, but again, who knows? There are surprises all the time.
That's for sure. Steve, your thoughts on this? Where do you fall on this?
Well, first of all, in terms of straining credulity, I think anytime we meet the child of our future self from an alternate universe like that, we're right at the edge there.
Yeah.
Personally, there was this brief moment where the idea of multiverses was seen as a plus. You know what we could have? I know what'll make this better. Let's add a multiverse. I really hope we're fully past that era where, because what I believe it should be most of the time, everything everywhere all at once aside, is it should be a minus. It's just so complicated and confusing. And it's like there's so much heavy lifting to make those stories work that I really, really hope we don't have one here. You know, I mean, particularly if we're talking about street level Spider-Man, because every minute you spend trying to explain the multiverse and how we're going from area to area and the backstory of each whatever's going on is a moment that you're taking away from the human emotions and all that stuff. And yes, No Way Home is fantastic and I loved it and it's great. But I don't want to keep doing it. And to me, now I haven't watched the last several seasons of Stranger Things, so I don't know her. You know, so I have no opinion on if she's good casting or who she would be right to play. But in terms of where we are in the story, certainly the idea of Mayday Parker, you know, is dramatic. And if it was, you know, one of the alternate Spider-Man's kids or something, I totally see what that would be dramatic. But I think Gwen Stacy is brilliant at this time because his relationship that he thought the love of his life has now forgotten him. You know, and so that can't exist. And there is strong reason why the character of Peter Parker would go, I love her, but I can't pursue her. I have to stay away from her. And then he meets another person, not Spider-Gwen from another universe, I would hope, but just another person. And the question is, does he start a new life? Does he move on from the love of his life to protect her? Those are really, really dramatic stakes for me. And so I think that's a great thing to do. And whether or not she becomes Spider-Gwen and how you advance the story, I don't know. But I do think that that's definitely exactly the person you want to have come into Peter Parker's world at this moment.
Yeah, it's kind of reverse order. But both you make excellent points. It's kind of reverse order in how they're doing it from the mythology that we know with Spider-Man, rather. But I kind of like it too, Steve. I hear what you're saying because this idea of like, well, now MJ, and let's deal with the reality. Zendaya is not going to keep coming back just to be Tom Holland's girlfriend in a movie. Like she is blowing up and she's about to be in Odyssey. She's going to do all these other, she's going to lead her own stuff. So to keep coming back to be the person who is with Peter, it's still Peter's story, you know? And so I think there's an element of reality about a star and an actress and where they're going, where you have to kind of deal with that practical truth within itself. But Sadie Sink coming in as an up-and-coming actress who's still establishing herself, this makes sense. And if you want to spin off a Gwen Stacy series, Sadie Sink, if she establishes herself firmly enough in this movie, can absolutely carry a series going forward. So I think it'll be fascinating to see what it is. And look, Christian rarely breaks things. So when he breaks things, I kind of have to be like, okay, maybe he is right. Because I like the idea of Mayday Parker, but as you both have said, they got to do a lot of heavy lifting to make that work. And if we're going with a ground-based Spider-Man, it maybe isn't necessarily the way they're going to go. I mean, that might be true, but you never know with this stuff. You never know how they're going to go. One last thing before we leave the Spider-Man universe, Daniel Kaluuya, who we have not heard from in quite some time. He is working on, according to reports here, working on a Spider-Punk spin-off movie based off, of course, the character that was there in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which has also been in the comics as well, Hobie Brown. But he is working with Ajon Singh in developing and co-writing this feature. Plot details haven't been sorted out, but the film will center on Hobie Brown as Spider-Punk, whose main weapon is his guitar. So Shannon, I got to go back to you on this one. Your thoughts? Do you like this idea of Daniel Kaluuya writing an entire feature film with someone else about a character he voiced over? This is kind of rare when this happens, but what are your thoughts? I mean, he has been writing and directing. So what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's a big maybe. It's a big maybe because Hobie in the world of Across the Spider-Verse was an incredible supporting character. Like he was such a great addition to Miles' world, and especially in the world of like all of the spider people that were out there across the Spider-Verse. Is the character strong enough to support a 90-minute, 2-hour movie? Yeah. Is this the story? I mean, are they going to crack the story to support that? We'll see what happens. Right. I'll be really interested to see how they do the animation style. If they are going to take the way that Hobie is portrayed in Across the Spider-Verse and we get an entire world of that. I mean, the character himself is on the newer side, but what Kaluuya brought to it, I mean, again, he's so memorable in a film full of memorable characters and memorable sequences. Hobie does really stand out as one of the strongest supporting players. Will he be a great lead for his own movie? We'll see. But having the guy who brought him to life on the creative side, who does right, I think is a good sign. So it's a maybe, but it's a really hopeful maybe.
Right on. Steve, your thoughts on this? And did you see Across the Spider-Verse? And are you familiar with the character?
Yes. So in the abstract, I'm all for it. Just like you are with lots of ideas, like someone, hey, what if we do this? Sure, sounds great. Love to see it. That's how I feel. I love Daniel Kaluuya. Think he's great. I love the characters' moments in Spider-Verse. I think they're awesome. I think the idea of Spider-Punk gives you all sorts of opportunities to sort of, because my understanding is it's sort of in an oppressive regime, and he's sort of part of the rebellion. And I think the idea of having punk rock rebellion in an oppressive dictatorial regime gives you tons of opportunities for great stories. But I mean, I'm a big foodie, as you know, and I'm sure you guys have been at a restaurant where you got the appetizer and you're like, oh my God, this appetizer is the greatest bite of food I've ever had in my life. This is going to be amazing. And then the entree comes along and suddenly you go, no, it's not going to be. Just the appetizer is good. It's a lot easier to have a character pop in a couple of moments and have fantastic moments in somebody else's movie than it is to create an entire movie about that character. I'm not saying they can't do it, and I'm very excited for the idea. I'm just saying this is where the hard part happens. You know, it's really hard to write a whole movie and to make it work. So I hope that they do.
I hope they do too. I'm looking forward to it. As Shannon said, he was a really great part of the movie and loved the style and the approach. But you bring up a great point, Shannon. What's the animation style going to be? How are they going to mirror or go? Are they going to go their own direction with the animation style? The other section of this is that there's another movie still coming that is the third installment in this Spider-Verse trilogy. Right. So how much will Hobie Brown be a part of that? How much will Spider-Punk have a role to play in the overall story and the way it all goes down? I thought for sure the Spider-Man 2099 would be the spinoff, but I guess we're waiting for that other iteration to come out, the installment rather to come out, and then we'll see where we go with that. But look, I love this idea. I think it's great, having creators of color coming in to do their own spin on things and keep the offerings diverse to all different types of fans. I think is a great thing, and I like Kaluuya a lot. And he's kind of disappeared over the last couple of years, which I found out recently. You guys can do your own research on this. Had to do with a guru that came into his life. So really weird stories all around. So I'm glad that he's back to creating stuff and being part of the creative community again, because that man was damn talented, as you've seen in Black Panther and a number of other films that he's been a part of in shows as well. So
has there ever been like a success story from a guru coming in? Like we only hear the bad ones.
I mean,
the Beatles.
Oh, the Beatles. But they were
the Beatles go to the Maharishi, man. We get some of the greatest music of all time out of that trip. But they also all left the Maharishi at a certain point.
Yeah. And they did break up 2 years later. So I don't know. It's a good point there, Steve.
Still good music.
It's true. All right, well, let's leave the world of Marvel and go into the world of Star Wars. A bit more thornier topic, a little bit of a minefield, but we're going to deal with it here on the Geek Buddies, and that is Gina Carano and Disney have settled their lawsuit here that has been going on for quite some time. Gina Carano's side funded by Elon Musk, and she was essentially suing Disney for letting her go from Star Wars, from The Mandalorian, from this character Cara Dune that was going to be a big part of Rangers of the New Republic. But they settled the lawsuit here as we're recording this yesterday. And Disney, or Lucasfilm rather, issued a statement saying, with this lawsuit concluded, we look forward to identifying opportunities to work together with Miss Carano in the near future. They said that she is beloved by our colleagues and she had no problems. She was respected by our directors, co-stars, and staff, and worked hard to perfect her craft while treating her colleagues with kindness and respect. Gina Carano issued a statement saying the deal is, quote, the best outcome for all parties involved, quote, and my desires remain in the arts. And that's the end of the lawsuit. There's no financial numbers that have been disclosed, but this is pretty much settling the lawsuit going forward and giving the James Gunn response to Henry Cavill type of thing. Well, we'll look forward to opportunities in the future. Steve, your thoughts on this? What's your feeling on this whole situation and where do we go from here?
Well, first of all, it's not surprising that they settled the lawsuit. I mean, that's pretty much to be expected what the corporate environment is today.
Mm.
I mean, so I've been listening to you guys talk on topics like this for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's just coincidental that you happen to have me on at this moment, but those were the topics where I most was listening and wanted to jump into the conversation.
Yes, I would
Because
get furious text messages from Steve going, I wanted to say this, but yes.
Occasionally that has definitely happened. And I think the thing to me is like, in terms of the firing, my understanding is there are two reasons she was fired. One is for tweets that were reference the Holocaust and conservative voices and things like that. Obviously, these are not things I'm a fan of. And the other is for on-set behavior, not calling people by their preferred pronouns, being rude, things like that. To me, as a director who has fired people on a movie set, I am 100% fine with firing someone who's being disrespectful to other members of the cast and crew. If you go to someone and say, hey, this person has complained about blah, 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 please treat them with the proper respect or use the proper pronoun, and you have an employee who refuses to do that, done, gone, no problem with it whatsoever. I don't like firing people because of their political points of view. I think it is a power that should be used extremely rarely and only under circumstances where we're talking about a genuine real threat of violence or cause to violence. Those are areas where I go, yeah, fucking fire him. But in general, I think it's a bad idea. And I think firing someone who is a conservative who says that the liberal media is trying to silence conservative voices, and you fire that person, strategically and tactically, I think that was a terrible idea. It gives tremendous weaponry to the other side. And we're seeing the consequences of today because Trump is firing all sorts of people for their political beliefs. And we're saying, hey, that's not right. You can't do that, except that we've already done that. And then you get to this point of, and this is the big one for me, is that I remember back when they were saying, when all of these corporations after George Floyd and after January 6th, and after all these moments were rushing to the banner of all of these liberal causes and pledging to do all these great things. And I didn't trust it then. And we shouldn't trust it now. I remember having a conversation with Vogel, we were actually literally staying at the Disneyland Hotel for a friend's birthday. And it was the moment during the Don't Say Gay Bill fight over Disney properties in Florida and all this stuff. And I remember both of us going like, I don't want big corporations fighting political battles like this. I don't trust them. And I don't like it when it's oil companies who are polluting the world. I don't like it when it's drug companies who are selling us stuff we shouldn't get. And I don't like it when it's art companies because I don't fucking trust them. And now we're seeing the other side of it, which is now whatever's in their corporate interest, they're going to rush out and do. Do they mean any of it? Maybe they mean some, maybe they don't. But having corporations get involved in these political things, it doesn't work out well for us at all in the long run. And I don't just mean it doesn't work out well for us liberals. I mean, it doesn't work out well for anybody trying to do it. That's my opinion about it.
Fair point. Okay, great points you bring up, Steve, for sure. Shannon, I know you don't always like to wade into these topics, but please feel free to say what you need to say or don't say anything at all. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I will approach it from a different, I'll attack it from a different angle than Steve did. I mean, I will look at it as he was a performer that, according to the documents that I saw, or not the documents, the literature that I saw, she was not signed to do any more. Like, she had fulfilled her contractual obligations. Right. Were they developing a show with her? Yes. Developing a show does not mean that show is going to happen. It doesn't mean that show is going to happen in any sort of iteration. Like a studio can develop a show with me, and along that development process, be like, man, maybe we like this idea, but we don't think you're the guy to shepherd this idea. If I'm an employee of that studio, they can get rid of me. Like, that is their legal right. When the things that I read, and again, I don't know all the details, and they didn't release the details of the settlement. She was suing for $75,000 and to be reinstated into the Mandalorian cast, or to be reinstated into her role. So $75,000, she was paid, again, according to the documents, she was paid $25,000 an episode. Yes. So she was trying to get hired. She wanted the money for 3 episodes, essentially. That, like, maybe they said she was going to be in, maybe they didn't, or maybe that was just sort of an arbitrary number that she picked. So the idea that, I don't know, I mean, it's just so infuriating because it wasn't breach of contract because I don't think that's what they said.
Right.
I don't think she was suing for breach of contract. So they didn't have a contract.
Yeah.
So it just kind of really frustrates me. And there's a lot of folks online who were a big fan of that character. Like, oh, it's so great that Cara Dune's
I like the
coming back.
character. I like the character.
She was fine. I mean, but are there any number of other actresses who could have played that role? Yeah.
Better.
I mean, you are talking. This is a substandard performer. I mean, if you really want to get down to it, I mean, did she look cool in action? Yes, because she is a trained fighter. So, so that is why she looked exceptionally cool. But if you see any of her other work outside of Star Wars, she ain't good. I mean, the Soderbergh movie, they completely redubbed all of her dialogue. They didn't do that because her voice sounded great. I mean, it's because it didn't sound good. So, and also all the folks that are like, Cara Dune, you didn't follow her to the Terror on the Prairie movie that she did, that she shot in Montana for $2 million that made $13,000 at the box office. So the whole thing is just kind of frustrates me because it's like, look, when you start working for a company, there is an understanding of here's what you have to do. And if you are told repeatedly, we're not doing what we expect, you're kind of going against, they're gonna get rid of you. Like, and even like the language of both parties. I mean, Disney's saying like, oh, we look forward to trying to find new opportunities. I don't think we're seeing Cara Dune ever again. And even the way that she said it, like, oh, this was the best possibility for everyone. My commitment remains to the arts or something. She ain't saying anything about coming back to a galaxy far, far away. So again, from what I had heard from people who worked on the show is that people did like her. Like, she was really, really nice. And like, they really enjoyed her. Being a nice person doesn't make you a good actor. And at the end of the day, I think if she was this incredible talent, we would have seen more evidence of it.
Can I say just quickest thing? Sorry. Sure. There are all, I agree with everything you said, Shannon, but there are all sorts of muscle-bound action stars who aren't necessarily great actors that we still get hired because they're good muscle-bound action stars. Anyway, that's all I want to say.
Can you point to one recently, though?
That is in the Marvel universe or in the Star
Marvel
Wars?
Anywhere. No. Like, I think you're referencing like Stallone and Schwarzenegger, like kind of the era of the 1980s.
Honestly, I'm not the biggest Momoa fan. Like, I don't think he's that great. I think he's amazing in Game of Thrones in that role, and I pretty much haven't particularly liked anything else that he's done. So, I think he has an amazing look. He has an amazing physical presence. He has a lot of charisma. I don't think he's a particularly great actor. And I think that, yes, there are fewer than there used to be of the sort of the muscle-bound action star, but we still look at them. I mean, they still exist.
I think obviously it's a matter of perspective, right? Subjective, right? It's a subjective taste on the actor, right? But what Momoa has in his corner is, I have $1 billion movie and a movie that I thought was a lame duck, right? And made almost 500 million. If Gina had that in her corner, I think we'd have settled this a long time ago, or not even. And I think somewhere in the middle is where, as I'm evolving on this topic a little bit, because obviously I don't like the things she I actually followed her on social media, and the 2 or 3 things people are pointing out, there were about 100 other instances, to be a little bit more dramatic, and 100 other instances where she said some pretty terrible shit, or some snarky stuff, or some really, really dehumanizing things about people who were commenting on everything from vaccinations to the election. She was pushing the idea that the election was stolen. Like, there's a lot of things that she know. Of course, it's a free country. She has a right to speak her piece. But I think a company has a right to be like, you know what? We don't like what you're representing. We don't want you on the show anymore. I think they have their right. It's how you go about doing it. I feel like Disney tried to get, like, they asked her to sit down with Kathleen Kennedy and 45 other members of the LGBT plus community so they could explain to her why the pronouns things is important to them. And if you're rejecting those moments to hear other people and then you claim you're being silenced, I feel there's a bit of hypocrisy in all of that. But I do think somewhere in the middle is the truth, which is, they probably wanted to let her go because she was not doing well in terms of acting and where they wanted to go with this. Maybe they sensed she couldn't carry a Rangers of the New Republic movie, and Star Wars hasn't actually been on solid ground for the last few years. So maybe they thought this was the opportunity now, because remember, we were in a Joe Biden presidency. Everyone was Black Lives Matter, Me Too movement. Hey, this is the way to go. And this leads into what Steve said. And they thought corporate wise, this was the smart move and the fans would be with us and no one would care. Well, things have changed. And as we see now, it's a much more conservative mindset that seems to be taking over, and the corporations are going that direction. So, Steve, what Steve said to me is ringing true in my ears more and more every day as I see these corporations bend the knee, is that the way I felt about them posting those black squares on Instagram when I know that they hadn't hired a lot of people of color, hadn't hired a lot of black people. And so you see that they're just going to do whatever the public says they should be doing in order to save their business. And I think in the end, this is what this was. Let's pay her off. We don't want Donald Trump to sue us again because ABC has already been sued, or Disney's already been sued through ABC for Stephanopoulos' stuff. And so they were like, just pay her off and let's move on from this. And as Shannon mentioned, the $75,000, what the hell does that cost Disney? That's like pocket change for that company. So they're like, settle it, let her claim victory and go off and be part of that MAGA crowd, and we'll move on and keep trying to build the stuff we're building. And yeah, I don't think we will see her again in Star Wars. I think it would take a lot for that to happen. That being said, Star Wars is wanting to court the red state fans. So I don't know. I don't count anything out in this corporate world nowadays. So who knows? Who knows?
Just one quick thing is that I think what's so troubling is, like, as we live in the constant swirling, mechanical AI generated outrage machine, is that anytime what happens is that anytime someone sees a horrible tweet that they're offended by Gina or whatever, is when you publicize that, you are publicizing their horribleness and you are focusing all attention on this thing. And that takes away Disney's power to just fire an actor that they're not getting what they want out of. Now it's become a political thing, and therefore everyone will jump on different sides. And that's why it's like, yes, we should call out bullshit when we see it, but it gets really dangerous because it ends up just fueling the fire.
Right. Well, and that's where, as a corporation, you have to go through the steps to let the person go. And maybe if they hadn't been so focused on her points of views or her posts, they could have just let her go for a performance issue and never commented on her actual posts. The fact that they felt the need to comment on them, I think, is what gave her the impetus to sue in the end. So everybody moves on. Everybody gets to claim victory because Disney did not admit to any wrongdoing in the lawsuit settlement, and they get to walk away saying, whatever, we paid her off, we're moving on. So we'll see. All right, let's walk out of that minefield and get into some trailers. Shannon McClung, what do you got for us, brother?
We got trailers. So if you have not seen The Naked Gun starring Liam Neeson, is it going to change your life? No. But is it 85 minutes, 84 minutes of solid laughs? Yeah, I got to see it a few weeks ago. I thought it was super, super funny. Hot off the heels of Liam Neeson's foray into comedy, into big screen comedy, we get the trailer for Cold Storage. This is from writer David Koepp of Jurassic fame and many other Spielberg property fame. But this is also based off of his own original novel. Along with Liam Neeson, this stars Stranger Things' Joe Keery and Black Mirror's Georgina Campbell. I mean, if you are not tired of zombies yet, then Cold Storage might be for you. Joe Keery and Georgina Campbell stars two young employees at a storage facility, and a mutated virus is on the verge of getting out. And Liam Neeson plays a grizzled survivalist who's there to try to help, try to put this motley crew together. This is one of those things that whenever we would see Liam Neeson's name post Taken, it's like, this could be great. This could be not so good. I thought the trailer for this was super, super funny. But why don't we throw it over to Mr. Rocha first, who's a big fan of mutated viruses.
Yeah.
Johnny, what did you think of our first look at Cold Storage?
How many lives does Liam Neeson have? It's amazing, right? I mean, like, he was, a pretty serious actor for quite some time in the 90s and 2000s. And then all of a sudden, bang, we have him as an action hero in Taken, and he's done all these vehicles. And most of them actually have turned out to be watchable to good, to occasionally great. So he's built himself in that. And now you open the door to Naked Gun, and here he goes moving into this. And he's clearly in a comedy phase. If you remember Dairy Girls, if you remember Atlanta, he did that over the last few years. He did an episode of Dairy Girls, episode of Atlanta. And so he's got a comedic sensibility that works now, kind of like De Niro when he fell into his comedies with the Fockers and stuff. And so I like this as a next approach. I thought this was a fun trailer. Felt a lot like a Novocaine type of vibe to it, which I really enjoyed. Those kind of like Saturday afternoon fun ones you can go to for a matinee and enjoy. I like the comedy here. I don't know too much about the director, Johnny Campbell. I don't know if he directed any episodes of Westworld that I saw, because I only saw one season of it, or Dracula. But I like Joe Keery. I like Georgina Campbell. The fact that you got Vanessa Redgrave and Leslie Manville in this is pretty fascinating for me looking at it. Plus, it has elements of like Death Proof. And I just saw Star Trek Strange New Worlds that had a zombie episode. So we're clearly not done with zombies. The Walking Dead, the one with the spinoff with Daryl, that just got greenlit for another final season 4. I had no idea there were even 3 seasons of that show. So clearly there's enough people. And plus you've got the other show that's there in New York City. So the zombies are here to stay, ladies and gentlemen. They're not going anywhere. And this looks like a lot of fun. Maybe not great fun, but certainly watchable fun.
Mr. Morris, Qui-Gon Jinn taking on the undead. What do you think?
You know how there are some movies that have like a very complex, subtle tapestry on whether or not they're going to succeed, and there are other movies where, well, that's either going to work or it's not. This seems to fall into that's either going to work or it's not thing. And you know what? It reminded me of John, and this is a movie I'll totally do on the Cine-Files with you sometime. My guess. I can't remember discussing with you, but my guess is you love it too, which is 1990s Tremors.
Oh yes, a cult classic. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's sort of we're in the middle of nowhere. There's a totally wacky science fiction-y thing going on, and a bunch of an ensemble of peculiar characters are going to have to fight and survive it, and it's going to be slightly scary and mostly. That's kind of what this looks like to me.
Yeah.
And I am either all in or not. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to listen to the Geek Buddies. Yeah. And if 2 out of 3 of them make me think I should go, I will go see it. That's my call right now.
It'll probably be on TV before you get a chance to see it. Go ahead. Yes.
This seems potentially is made for streaming. Mr. Morris, you will be waiting until an undisclosed date in 2026 because Cold Storage does not have a solid release date, just that it is expected in 2026. That brings us to our next trailer, our first look at The Paper. This is from writers Greg Daniels and Tim Key. This is taking place within the universe of The Office, which ran for 9 seasons on NBC. So this one, it's the same documentary crew from The Office, but this time they're focusing on a struggling Toledo, Ohio-based newspaper, and Donald Gleason of General Hux fame comes in as the new editor-in-chief to shake things up. This was a very, very sweet trailer. People talk about Parks and Rec being a spinoff of The Office, and it's like, well, kinda. Like, it was the same creative team. It was still that mockumentary format, but this one actually does take place in the world of The Office because the connective tissue there is not just the documentary crew. It is Oscar Nunez, who is showing up as former Dunder Mifflin employee. This will be an interesting show. One, they shot 10 episodes. All 10 of these episodes are coming out in September, not a Netflix drop it all at the same time. But I think the first week it is 4 episodes, then it's 2, and 2. So really interesting release strategy. Also, like The Office and Parks and Rec, these shows historically have taken a season to kind of find their footing. So have they learned some lessons from The Office and Parks and Rec? We'll find out. But Mr. Morris, I don't know if you were a fan of The Office, but what did you think of our first look at The Paper?
Well, I feel I'm compelled to give you a full disclosure that I have seen almost no episodes of either Office.
Wow.
I am categorically allergic to embarrassment comedy. It makes me cringe so much. One episode of The British Office, which was among the most painful experiences of my life. I think I've seen 3 of The American Office. People tell me I really should do The American Office, and I'm sure it's fantastic. And I'm thinking that might be the next show I tackle. He said, I adore Parks and Rec. I love Parks and Rec. And even though everyone's talking about the Office thing, Shannon, as you brought up, I get Parks and Rec vibes. And I'm actually really excited about this because this is it's a real thing. Local newspapers around the country are dying. They're being entirely bought out. Most of our news sources are now national. We used to spend like 70% of our time with local news and 30% national. And now it's like 95% national news. And that's part of why politically we're so at each other's throats, because we're only focusing on national news rather than what's going on right down the street. So that means this is an incredibly fertile ground for topics and things to talk about and to make comedy about. And that thing about Parks and Rec which is you have these wacky people trying to do an impossible job, but whose spirit is really good. I felt some of that coming off, particularly the main character in this trailer. And I'm like, man, wacky people on a local paper trying to make good locally while they have their crazy adventures. Sign me up. I'm in. No, I really like this. And I hope they find their footing quickly, but I'll stay till the second season. That's how much I like Greg Daniels and the people in charge of this.
Johnny, are you going to subscribe to the paper?
Oh, here's what I say. I went in like this. I don't know, because I love The American Office, except for that whenever Steve Carell left, it fell off a cliff for me. Last two seasons, yeah. No matter what they tried, it didn't work for me. But I'm an avid fan of Parks and Rec. I will defend that till the day I die. Probably halfway through the first season to the end. It's absolutely the greatest stuff that I've ever seen on a sitcom, or arguably some of the greatest stuff I've ever seen. So, Steve, you're right to point out that it has that energy to this, and that's what won me over. There's a sweetness to what Domhnall Gleeson is bringing to this character, and his relationship with, I think the actress's name is Chelsea Fry. I haven't seen her in much of anything, but she's been in a lot of things that I just don't watch, like The Cleaning Lady, something called Sideswipers, I think is what it was called. But so she's been in a number of things. She was in an episode of Poker Face, but I don't remember her in it at all. So I liked their chemistry as kind of a Jim and Pam kind of energy that you like. You're not going to, and then the British guy, I don't know if he's necessarily supposed to be the Steve Carell type of character, but having all the different archetypes throughout here and have it be a paper, as you said, Steve, me as a guy who loves journalism from the outside, never was a journalist myself, always wanted to be, but never quite committed to it. To me, it's fun to see it through this prism and the different characters. And I mean, her scrolling her article to see all the ads, I was laughing my nuts off at that. If you go to a lot of websites, it's basically what they are now. So all of that is really funny. But what won me is at the end when they're like, these people going out there to try to find these stories. So it has elements of Afterlife. If you guys remember the Ricky Gervais show that's on Netflix, where he's going out in the local British town community that he's in and interviewing people out those stories. It has that element to it as well. But Domhnall Gleeson, haven't seen Frank of Ireland. If you guys haven't seen that show, him and his brother on that show, his ability to play status, Domhnall Gleeson, up and down the Frank is amazing. And here, I just wanted to work there. And that makes me want to watch the show, is that I would like to have had a job in this fictional place. So I'm in for sure. And I wish they were dropping all 10 episodes so I could blaze through it on a Saturday. But the fact that they're dropping it this way all in 1 month excites me. And I hope it catches on, because we need comedies like this. We really need comedies.
Agreed. I questioned some of their casting because I was on hold for a part and I didn't get it. But outside of that,
the old British guy, is that what you wrote for?
But the first episodes of the paper drop September 4th on Peacock, and that brings us to our last trailer. This one is for a rental family. So this one is starring Academy Award winner Brendan. Why did I started to say Brendan Gleeson because I was thinking of Donald. I was thinking Donald Gleeson, Brendan Fraser, and the director is Hikari, who is from Beef. Also did episodes of a show that John and I really enjoyed called Tokyo Vice that was on HBO Max. So this one, Brendan Fraser stars as an American actor living in Tokyo whose work kind of dries up, and he gets hired by a rental family company where John, I believe, did a deep dive on this, and this is actually a thing that they have in Japan, to basically be hired to be someone's relative kind of for the day. This one, to me, this just having lived in Japan for 2 years, and just falling in love with the people and the culture over there. I mean, this one just grabbed my heart and absolutely squeezed. But I'll throw it over to Johnny first. What'd you think of our first look at Rental Family?
I was crying by the end of this trailer. I really was. I love Brendan Fraser so much, and reading what he went through and what he endured after he was groped by that person, and how he had to, kind of take so long to find his way back into our eyesight, I think is an incredible story. And to see him bring his natural sweetness that he can really dial into as an actor in this trailer, makes me very excited to see this movie. I know my co-host on the Hot Mic, Jeff, thinks this is a dark horse for a Best Picture nomination, which is really incredible. And we might see Brendan get nominated again. Wouldn't that be crazy if he wins 2 Best Actor awards in like 3 or 4 years? It would be mind-blowing to see that happen. But there's such a beautiful energy coming off of this film, and I'm going to try not to get emotional in talking about it, because I think nowadays, man, there's a lot of lonely people in the world. I had no idea this was a cottage industry in Japan, and the amount of money that you can make doing this and how these people's lives are really transformed by this interaction. Like, I was reading all kinds of articles about how these people still keep in touch with the actors who come in to play their family members in certain situations, because they kind of adopt this idea, and this idea of found family versus biological family. I think it explores all of that, but also it's his journey, the main character's journey of kind of like, I'm just trying to work and make some money and do whatever. And then him discovering this epidemic of loneliness that exists not only in Japan, but in a lot of other countries. So there was a lot to it that I thoroughly enjoyed. And I also like seeing Takahiro Hira, who was, of course, a part of Shogun. Nice to not be rooting against him, but be with him on his side. And so it was nice to see that element and some softness to him as well. But really, there was I mean, the old guy holding the picture and hugging Brendan, I just effing lost it, man. So I'm going to be a mess seeing this movie, I have a feeling. And so this trailer just really did it for me. And I had no idea what this was at all.
Mr. Morris, you're looking to make a few bucks. You want to be part of a rental family?
I think I could do a good job. I think I would show up, and I would really show up for people. Maybe this is a new career for me. You know how we hear, like, as people talk about how Hollywood is out of ideas and we can only repeat the old stories, and you hear and the implication in that is that there's this sense of like, well, maybe we are. I mean, maybe there aren't. Maybe we've told all the stories. And I remember listening to someone talk about music, and they said, look, we've got these 88 keys on a keyboard, and we can literally make, and it was some astronomical, it was like more variations than the size of the universe.
Right.
And I go, the human character and human experience is so much more vast and varied than the keys on a piano. We're never going to run out of ideas. This movie would never have occurred to me. I didn't know this existed.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about it. And yet it's like, oh my God, here is an amazing story. Because John, I'm with you. I was crying at the end of this trailer. I think this was fantastic. I think Brendan Fraser, you said it so perfectly with that inherent sweetness that he brings. And as a big guy, some of the shots of him like on the train, like just a giant behemoth between them, and all of that. And the great thing too is that this is a story where obviously, I'm going to have an emotional experience that's in there, but I'm also going to learn about all these different people's lives that are totally unlike mine. And that's exciting. Like, so instead of looking at how will Marvel do another one of those, we're looking at, here's a completely unique film experience that we get to go to. And I'm super excited about it.
Well, yeah. I tell you, if the Lady Outlaw dies unexpectedly, you guys might find me disappearing into Japan to do this, and I would just detach from everything.
Wait, you who want to stay in your house at all time and not have to deal with people are now going to be a professional people person.
Possibly. There's very good possibility of disappearing into that and turning off all my social media and just doing this for the rest of my life. Who knows?
It would be healthy. It's healthy. Look, it's healthier than Twitter doom scrolling.
That's for sure.
I'll tell you that. Yeah,
that's for sure.
Well, Rental Family comes out November 21st, just in time for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, perfect timing. All right, well, let's move on to some DC conversation as we wrap up. Let's get into our main topic here. Well, David Zaslav over at Warner Brothers had himself a big old meeting with the shareholders, a shareholders meeting, and a letter was issued to the shareholders explaining what is going forward with Warner Brothers and DC, a 10-year plan of interconnected universes and stuff that they spoke about, both TV and film. And they laid this out. And a couple of things that were revealed in this particular conversation, or in this particular letter, was that James Gunn is working on a sequel to working on the next movie, in the Super Family universe. Now, a lot of people are speculating, could this be the Super Family, like Superman and the related family that he has in the comics, or was Zaslav just talking broadly as a Super Family universe, including Supergirl and Superman and other things like Krypto, who's also part of the Super Family universe? Was it more of a broader conversation? The other thing that was revealed was that the Batman Part 2 is going to start shooting in spring of 2026 for an October 1st, 2027 release date. But not only that, reports came out last night from Jeff Snyder, my co-host on the Hot Mic, on his Insider newsletter, stating that Robin is going to be introduced in the Batman Part 2. Now, I know James Gunn said that only 4 people on the planet know his plans, which is horse crap. But clearly we see now that there's a possibility that other people might know what's going on here. So, Shannon, you hear all this stuff going on. What do you think about the James Gunn Super Family situation? And what do you think about the Batman Part 2 shooting next year and the Robin edition?
Well, normally when a CEO or an executive says something like super family, you kind of brush it off, being like, well, you don't you're grabbing some broad vernacular to use to talk about sort of the expanding universe that you're creating. The fact that James Gunn did talk about that he is writing a sequel of sorts, not a direct sequel. It's not
Right.
Superman 2, but Superman plays a big part. I mean, I think we were all kind of scratching our heads over what could this movie be. I mean, could it be a World's Finest? And World's Finest, is typically associated with Superman and Batman, but World's Finest is really two heroes teaming up who haven't teamed up in the past. So it's kind of like, okay, well, you've said you want to introduce your Batman in The Brave and the Bold. So it was kind of a head scratcher over like, wow, what is this movie going to be? The super family, if that is what it ends up being, I mean, this is a first, because who else is included in that besides Superman, Supergirl, and Krypto? Is this a Superboy situation? Is this a John Henry Irons coming out of Steel situation? Yeah, I mean, it could be interesting. I mean, coming out of Superman, and like when I first saw it, the things that I liked, I loved, and the things that I didn't, I was really, really against. I mean, against some of those kind of sillier James Gunn choices. The more I saw that movie, the more I really fell in love with the stuff that connected with me the first time, and the stuff that didn't bothered me less and less. It still bothered me, but it bothered me less. So knowing that we're going to get more of David Cornsweet as Clark Kent, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, and the rest of the respective crew at the Daily Planet, I think that's a great idea, and it's something that I am excited to see more of. But I am actually curious like what this movie is, because the super family just doesn't sound right in my brain.
Yeah. Over
to the Batman, we had said, again, like the three of us, including Mr. Vogel, we were big fans of Matt Reeves, the Batman. Too bad it took this long to get the sequel, but from reports, everyone's like, oh, it was worth the wait. It was worth the wait. The script's so fantastic. So knowing that allegedly they're going to be including Robin in this. Now, a lot of folks would immediately point to the fact that Robert Pattinson is not quite 40 years old. Just kind of like, he's too young. It's like, well, 39, 38, 39. I mean, conceivably, you could have a young ward who you could train. But just looking at the world that Matt Reeves created, in my head, it's difficult to see where Dick Grayson would exist in there. And also because it does seem that the DCU is going to cast their Batman, and then Matt Reeves is going to have his Batman epic crime saga. I forget what the acronym is. So I would think you would want to differentiate those universes as much as you can. Now, visually, they are going to be different in that Matt Reeves is very grounded, very could be in our world. Whereas the DCU, at least based off of Metropolis, this is a brightly colored Silver Age world. I would think that you would want to keep Robin far away from Matt Reeves. I mean, again, just the idea of a kid running around, or a teenager running around assisting, the world's greatest detective. Again, visually, it doesn't quite make sense, and tonally, it doesn't quite make sense. But Matt Reeves is a fantastic writer. Like, he took Rise of the Planet of the Apes. He took a great Apes reboot and just plussed with the next two entries. So it's going to be, I'm really, really curious how that is going to work out. I mean, James Gunn has said that Robin for Brave and the Bold, that it's going to be Damian Al Ghul, who is sort of the fifth. He's not the first Robin. Like this is Bruce Wayne's son, who from Talia Al Ghul. So what Robin are they planning to use? I mean, Dick Grayson, I kind of have a hard time seeing. Jason Todd in the Matt Reeves universe, it's like, maybe that would make a little more sense. Tim Drake, maybe that would make sense. I don't know. It's going to be super interesting to see. And as the production is supposed to be filming at the first quarter of next year, we should be finding out who's going to be playing the Boy Wonder.
Yeah. Steve, your thoughts on both of these topics here within the DC universe through the shareholders meetings?
So first of all, anytime you are listening to corporate executives, you have to know that you are getting a extreme. I'm not saying you're getting lied to, but you're getting an extremely slanted version of the truth.
For sure.
We know this because while they frequently say, "Oh, he's doing great work on the script. We're very excited about this. He's delivering an amazing performance." They never say, "We hired this writer and frankly they suck. We don't like the script." They never say that. And so because you never hear that, you have to take all of this with a grain of salt. I don't know what the word family means for Superman. There's a lot of different ways to interpret it. I don't know which Robin they're talking about, but I will say this is like, people are very concerned with how can the Matt Reeves Gotham and Batman exist in the James Gunn DC universe. I'm less so. Having grown up reading comic books, I could go from reading a really gritty Frank Miller Gotham comic book or a Daredevil comic book that's really dark, and then go to a really bright other comic book that's in the same universe. Like that's normal. And even like, I don't have a problem going from the Marvel TV shows to a Marvel movie, even though one is much darker than the other. I'm cool with that. It's funny because as a guy who grew up on DC Comics and stopped reading in the mid-90s, I got introduced to a couple of the new Robins, but for me, it's always Dick Grayson is Robin. And then there are these other people that are also Robin, because that's the world that I grew up in. I think there's ways to tell a Robin story, whether it's Dick Grayson or Jason Todd or any of the others in that world, but it's going to take changing the way we see Robin. I mean, just as Heath Ledger's Joker is an entirely different Joker than the one we're used to, but totally works. Is there some way that a young person could be a help to Batman and they develop a relationship? Totally. Do we picture him in the yellow and orange tight, with the tights and the whole thing running around Matt Reeves' Gotham? Doesn't quite work for me so well. But I'm glad they're moving forward. I like that movie too. I love Batman, one of my favorite characters, of course. So I'm glad it's happening. And I just pretty much like, all right, you're a talented person. I'm going to guess that you figured this out and hope that you have. As far as the Superman family, I think right behind me in those boxes, I have comics called Superman Family. Yeah. I'm almost certain of it. So, and I was born in 68. I grew up reading 70s and 80s DC comics and then started seriously collecting the Silver Age. So my main collection is Silver Age DC comics. So I really rack my brain to think about, okay, what could he be doing? What could he be going for? And because I can't really make predictions, gentlemen, had come up with my version of a James Gunn DC Superman story.
Okay.
This is available for purchase. You just have to send me an email. My agent will take pretty much any offer Mr. Gunn wants to handle. But here's what I thought of, is that the biggest tension that happens in the movie, this is a bit of a spoiler, but probably most people have seen Superman at this point, is the change in the sense of what Krypton is about. That he finds out his parents had not lied to him, but they presented something unexpected. Well, that means that his cousin, Supergirl, has also lied to him, because she came from Krypton when she was still conscious. She wasn't a baby, at least in the understanding of Supergirl that I have. Yeah, she's a teenager, which means she didn't tell him something, which creates conflict between the two of them. Here's the plot, gentlemen. This is what I want to do. Because of the conflict, she's doing secret things. They have a falling out. She doesn't want to talk to him because maybe there are things she doesn't want to reveal. Maybe it'll hurt his feelings. Maybe it could change history in some way. And so she starts doing secret things, including dealing with some device. And she tells Superman to stay away from it because she doesn't want him to touch it. He thinks she's hiding something important, goes to the device. It's the Phantom Zone projector. We open up the Phantom Zone where not only do we have Zod, Ursa, and Non, but maybe Mon-El too, one of my favorite Silver Age characters, another superhero. And now we get a conflict, and they want one more Kryptonian to take over the world, and they find Kryptonian signals from a black hole where they recover Superman's clone from the movie, who has been turned into Bizarro Superman. So this is the Superman family. We got Zod, we got Mon-El, we got, of course, Bizarro, Supergirl, and we have Bizarro, who hates Superman at this moment. Mon-El, who's like sort of a young man who's been swayed by the powerful extremist group, and that so he's been persuaded by Zod, and Superman must win over Mon-El and Bizarro, heal the wounds with Supergirl, find out the truth so that we can have a big space battle. And all of this, by the way, is taking place on its giant journey in space, because James Gunn ensemble, conflicted characters, particularly Bizarro is a perfect James Gunn sort of character. And now we have everyone who's flawed having to resolve their conflicts, come together and fight against Zod and the other Kryptonians to win the thing. And that is my Steve Morris Silver Age Superman family movie.
There you go. In space.
That's my pitch.
Yeah, I like the pitch.
Did I sell it in the room?
This sounds like Superman 2, but
it does have a Superman 2 element.
Yeah. It might be a little bit darker than James wants to go, but certainly there's possibilities there within the story I like a lot. Yeah, the super family stuff, I think this makes sense to me, to be honest with you. I think it was capitalized, and I think that wasn't an accident. Because I don't think Zaslav knows a super family from a hole in the ground, to be honest with you. But I like the idea here of him, because I think what they've done is, because the film, look, I'm still going to say the film underperformed because it didn't make $700 million, but it got the job done in getting people excited about Superman and DC again. And you can't, and it's going to be the highest grossing comic book movie of the year. So give it its flowers, 100%. But I think this also gave James Gunn cachet to do what he also does, Steve, which you highlight a little bit, is that he likes to go a little bit deeper into the cuts. I mean, the Guardians of the Galaxy was pretty deep. Then you get into volume 2, and he's going into the original Guardians of the Galaxy with Stallone's character, Michael Rosenbaum's character, Ving Rhames, Michelle Yeoh. You get all of these people in there to play. So he's going to go as deep as he wants to go because he's a nerd, and I think James Gunn likes to show off how much he knows about comic books and does it through that prism. So I think him doing a super family sequel as a sequel of sorts to Superman makes all the sense in the world to me. And I think he'd be excited about trying to bring that super family to life, and it would fit the energy that he laid out in Superman. So for me, I think this works and it'd be a lot of fun. Will there be, as Steve mentioned, the Phantom Zone? Will we get Zod and the crew come back in? We will see. A lot of people speculating that Kandor could be a possibility in all of this, which
that was on my list. I was trying to figure out how to work Kandor in, but I couldn't quite get there. Also, Beppo the super monkey, but you know.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, and because the super family also exists, also has a super cat, a super horse, a super monkey, as we were mentioning. So there's a lot of things throughout. And then you add the idea of Van Z, and I know I did a short recently on the channel where James Gunn said that he was like, he would welcome back recently on the Josh Horowitz podcast, Henry Cavill coming back in. Could Henry Cavill play Van Z? That would be an interesting way to go with that and get people really excited, maybe mend some of those bridges. So I think that's all a possibility when you look at a super family movie as a sequel to the Superman. That being said, or Superman rather, it wasn't Matt Reeves. That being said, though, it could very well be something completely different where Superman is just a part of it, but not a big deal. And there's something else that he's focusing on. But I'm going to lean towards the super family. As for the Batman stuff, I got to say it's really curious if Jeff's reporting is true. And Jeff's not always right, but he's usually right. This idea of a Robin being in Matt Reeves. I mean, the fact that they're allowing Matt Reeves to introduce a Robin first before James Gunn gets to introduce his Robin, to me is really curious. And you look at the letter, and Steve may be right. Steve is certainly right when you talk about executives and the CEOs and what they put out. But the fact that they chose the wording interconnected sequels to me might be teasing the fact that we are finding a way to kind of bring together, if you read between the lines, the James Gunn verse and the Matt Reeves verse to make it all be one. And Robin could be the linchpin that makes this all happen. Is this the Dick Grayson? As Steve said, Dick Grayson and the Robinettes, who knows? But it could be if we went to Matt Reeves versus the Jason Todd, and he dies by the end of the Batman Part 2, which would be their way of introducing Robin, but not having Robin be a part of the James Gunn DC verse. So it might be that they introduce Robin here, but we're not going to see Robin survive the movie. So therefore, there will be no coming together of the two universes. Or Robin stays alive and it is a coming together as a possibility. So I think there's all kinds of things in play here, but I like the idea of a Robin coming in as a young Ward, because remember, by the end of the Batman, he's no longer the brooding, angry emo guy. He's actually seeing the sun. He's actually helping people, helping the Gotham citizens. And so there's more of a hopeful energy by the end of that movie. And since Catwoman left, he's going to need a partner in some way, shape, or form. And a Robin coming in would make a lot of sense depending on how they approach it. So that's my thoughts overall. Any final words you guys want to say on this? Anything else that came up as we're having this conversation?
Two quick things.
Okay.
One is that just a thing in terms of comic book movies is one of the things I think is really hard is that sometimes comic book movies try to replicate comic book drama at cinematic pace. And what I mean by that is like in Batman versus Superman, he's essentially trying to replicate the battle between Superman and Batman from Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller.
Right.
But the reason that it works in Dark Knight Returns is that it's based on 45 years at that time of history between Superman and Batman.
Yeah.
So you can't get, and in Batman v Superman, they just met. You just can't get there that fast. And that's like, so killing Jason Todd, it's 5 years between when Jason Todd gets introduced in 83 and when he dies in 88. And so it's like that kind of time just can't be, it's very difficult to replicate it in a film. That's that's the one thought. The only other thought is I remember the one other thing I wanted to bring up for Silver Age Superman, which is obviously you have to have red kryptonite. Definitely got to have red kryptonite, possibly gold and rainbow kryptonite as well, although they're a little more unpredictable. But come on, red kryptonite is straight up James Gunn's alley.
That's a fair point. Shannon, any final words here as we wrap up this DC section of our conversation today?
I mean, knowing that Robin is coming in some sort to both universes, perhaps, I'm still excited for that Teen Titans movie, but I imagine that is years away at this point.
Yeah, and so is that Brave and Bold, right? Because if you're working on this film coming out in 2027, I don't think we're going to see a Brave and Bold until 2029 at the earliest, because you got to give time for those Batmans to breathe separately. So if they're not coming together as two universes, then we're not going to see a Batman film for quite some time on the James Gunn side, it seems like. So, all right, well, there you go. That's our conversations on all these big geek news items. Thank you all so much for listening to us. And a big shout out to Steve Morris sitting in for Michael Vogel. Thank you, Steve. We appreciate it. Please let people know where they can find you and everything you got going on, my man.
Well, thank you both. Lifelong dream. I think, now, do I get the plaque that says official Geek Buddy? Is that come in the mail, or do I have to order that?
You got to do a few more episodes. I mean, there's a 5 Timers Club in SNL.
Oh, right.
Kalinowski had to earn one of those too. A few more.
All right, well, I'm truly honored. Of course, as John said at the beginning of the show, we're on the Cine-Files. John, can I say the next movie on the Cine-Files?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we're just finishing up doing Superman 78 with, of course, Geek Buddy Michael Vogel. But what I am researching right now, what I was looking at the moment before I got on the mic, is one of my all-time favorite movies, one of the greatest films of all time. I'm literally jumping out of my skin. I'm so excited to talk about Steven Spielberg's Jaws for its 50th anniversary. We've done it once before, but this is going to be very, very different. So this is going to be the ultimate deep dive.
Yeah, and it's already one of the favorite episodes from a lot of our fans with our guest, Garrick Rogers, our writer friend and showrunner Eric Rogers. But we thought we would tackle it for the 50th anniversary and go scene by scene, which we were not able to do in the original version of that episode. So now we're going to have some fun with it for sure. Shannon, what do we have to tell our Geek Buddies listeners here and viewers?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's @geek_buddies. On Instagram, at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's @Shannon_McClung. On Instagram, it's Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you'd like to follow the absent Mr. Vogel, it is @MKToon. If you'd like to follow the present Mr. Rocha, it is @The Rocha Says.
Well, and I guess I'll take Michael's spot here. Please remember to subscribe to the channel down below and see all the content I got going on here, like Hot Mic, Spill the Tequila, more Geek Buddies episodes, my reviews, my reactions. A new episode of The Jedi Way, our Star Wars show, dropped this past week with me and Laura Kelly talking about all the Star Wars news as well. And, of course, The Truth, my new show that I'm trying to do consistently on Sunday mornings, talking about big items from the week and telling you my truth, the truth, about what these topics are all about. Go pay attention to that. Maybe I might start bringing in some of these guys as guests to have more in-depth conversation on some of these topics, which would be a lot of fun as well. And don't forget, we are also a podcast. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast, because as you subscribe to the podcast, more numbers build up. We can attract more sponsors to the show as well. All right, take care of yourselves. Be well. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode of The
Geek
Buddies.